You know, there's something utterly enchanting about the way we treat silence, as though it were an empty room to be avoided at all costs, a void that must be filled with noise, chatter, music, notifications, anything to drown out the stillness. We wake up to alarms, scroll through feeds before our eyes are fully open, plug in headphones the moment we step outside, and fall asleep to the glow of screens. We say we're relaxing when we binge-watch shows, connecting when we send emojis, thinking when we're lost in endless mental commentary. But silence? Silence is the enemy. Silence is awkward. Silence is where the monsters hide. And yet here's the delicious irony. Silence is the very womb from which all sound emerges, the canvas on which the entire symphony of life is painted. Without silence, there is no music. Without stillness, there is no movement. And without the quiet, we never truly hear anything at all. Let me take you to a monastery I once visited. High in the Himalayas, the monks rose before dawn, not to the blare of bells, but to the soft chime of a single wooden fish struck gently in the dark. They walked to the meditation hall in perfect quiet, no shuffling, no coughing, no whispered gossip. For hours they sat, eyes half closed, breathing in, breathing out. No chanting, no drumming, no guided visualizations, just silence. Thick, rich, alive silence. At first I thought I'd go mad. My mind was a circus, memories of yesterday's lunch, plans for tomorrow's journey, random song lyrics, judgments about the monk next to me who kept sniffing. But after a while, something shifted. The thoughts didn't stop, but they began to feel like clouds drifting across a vast sky. And beneath them, around them, through them, was this immense, velvety quiet. Not absence, presence, the kind of presence that makes your heartbeat sound like a drum in a cathedral. Now, most of us live in the opposite world. We're addicted to stimulation, the way a junkie is addicted to the needle. We fear silence because in silence, the ego has nowhere to hide. In noise, we can pretend we're busy, important, in control. We can drown out the nagging questions. What am I doing with my life? Why am I so restless? Who am I when no one is watching? Silence strips away the costumes. It's like walking into a room where all the lights suddenly go out. At first, panic. Then, slowly, your eyes adjust and you see the stars. I remember a man named Daniel who came to me in a state of near collapse. He was a radio host, ironic, isn't it? Always talking, always performing, always on. His show was a hit, his voice recognizable in every taxi in the city. But off-air, he was unraveling. Panic attacks, insomnia, a marriage on the rocks. I can't stand quiet, he confessed. The moment the mic goes off, my head explodes. So I gave him a challenge, 1 hour a day, no devices, no music, no books, no talking, just sit. He lasted 7 minutes the first day. It was torture, he said, like being locked in a room with a screaming child, except the child was me. But he persisted. Day 3, 15 minutes. Day 10, 30. And on the 21st day, something broke open. He didn't hear angels or see visions. He just landed. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of his own body, the rhythm of his breath, the subtle hum of aliveness beneath the mental noise. It's like I'd been living in a hurricane, he said, and suddenly stepped into the eye. Everything was still moving, but I wasn't. You see, silence isn't empty, it's full. Full of the sound of blood in your ears, the creak of floorboards, the distant call of a bird. Full of thoughts, yes, but also full of the space between thoughts. The gap where creativity is born, where insight flashes like lightning. Einstein said his best ideas came in the shower. Why? Because the water drowned out the world, and for a few minutes he was alone with silence. Mozart heard entire symphonies in the quiet between notes. The poet Rumi wrote, "Beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." That field is silence, but we've been trained to fear it. From childhood, don't just sit there, do something. We fill awkward pauses in conversation with filler words. We blast music in the car to avoid our own thoughts. We sleep with TVs on because the dark, quiet feels like death. And in a way, it is death, the death of the false self, the chattering monkey mind that believes it is the noise. In silence, the monkey runs out of bananas. It sits down, exhausted, and for a moment you glimpse who's been watching the monkey all along. Let me tell you about a woman named Aisha who discovered this accidentally. She was a lawyer, brilliant, relentless, always preparing her next argument. One winter, a blizzard trapped her in a remote cabin for 3 days. No electricity, no signal, no neighbors, just snow, a fireplace, and silence so deep it roared. The first night, she paced like a caged tiger. The second, she cried for no reason she could name. The third, she sat by the window and watched the snow fall. And in that watching, something dissolved. Not her problems, they were still there, waiting like patient dogs. But her resistance to them melted. She saw her life clearly. The cases she didn't care about, the marriage she'd neglected, the fear of being nobody without her title. When the plows finally came, she didn't rush back to the city. She stayed another week. I'd spent 40 years running from quiet, she said later. Turns out it was running toward me. In the Christian tradition, they speak of the still small voice that Elijah heard after the earthquake, wind and fire, not in the drama, but in the whisper. In Hinduism, Mauna vow of silence is a path to truth. The Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree in silence until the universe spoke through him. Even science backs this up. Studies show that 2 hours of silence can regenerate brain cells, lower cortisol, increase creativity. But we don't need studies, we need courage, the courage to turn off the noise and listen. Now, silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of attention. You can be in a crowded train, earbuds out, and be in silence if you're fully here. You can be in a forest with birdsong and be in noise if your mind is screaming. True silence is internal. It's the pause between thoughts, the space where you meet life directly, unfiltered by commentary. The music is not in the notes, said Mozart, but in the silence between. The same is true of life. The meaning isn't in the events, but in the stillness that witnesses them. Try this, just once. Tonight, before sleep, don't reach for your phone. Don't turn on a podcast. Lie in the dark and listen. Not for anything in particular, just listen. To your breath, to the hum of the fridge, to the neighbor's dog, to the vastness behind it all. At first, the mind will rebel. It'll offer you tomorrow's to-do list, yesterday's regrets, a catchy jingle from 1997. Let it. Don't fight. Just return to listening. After a while, the noise thins. And in that thinning, you touch something immense. Not emptiness, spaciousness. The kind of space where galaxies are born. I'll never forget a night in the desert. No light pollution, no sound but the wind sculpting dunes. I lay on the sand and looked up. The stars weren't points of light, they were holes in the black fabric of night, letting eternity leak through. And in that silence I understood. The universe isn't noisy, it's quiet. The Big Bang wasn't a shout, it was a whisper that's still echoing. Black holes don't scream. They sing in frequencies we can't hear. The planets spin in perfect silence. We're the ones making all the racket. So here's the invitation, not to become a monk or move to a cave, just to visit silence daily. 5 minutes, 10, an hour if you're brave. Walk without music, eat without scrolling, sit without speaking. Let the world be as it is, without your narration. And watch what happens. The anxiety you've been running from, it's just a thought. The boredom, a doorway. The fear of wasting time. The ego's last defense. In silence, you don't find yourself. You remember. You remember that you were never the noise. You were the quiet that hears it. And when you live from that quiet, everything changes. Conversations deepen because you're listening, not waiting to speak. Creativity flows because there's space for it. Love grows because you're present, not performing. Even problems solve themselves when you stop mentally rehearsing them. The great jazz musician Miles Davis said, "It's not the notes you play, it's the notes you don't play." Life is like that. The magic is in the pauses, the breaths, the silences between heartbeats. Stop filling them, stop fearing them, step into them, and you'll discover that silence isn't the absence of life, it's the heartbeat of it. So tonight, when the world quiets down, don't rush to turn something on. Let the silence hold you. It's been waiting a long time, and it has stories to tell, stories without words, songs without sound, truths that can only be heard when you finally stop talking.